Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here, and this is my 48-hour review of the 2026 Moto G Play. Now, originally I wanted to come to this review as a hater, and I was ready to talk about all the compromises that this phone brings, but I decided to take sort of a step back and actually understand who this phone is aimed for. So the starting price is around $170, which is up by $30 from the previous generation, and this phone does bring in noticeable upgrades from the 2024 Moto G Play, which was the last model that Motorola has released in the United States. So first, it brings in a familiar design, which is reminiscent to pretty much a lot of Motorola's lineups nowadays with the vegan leather material. On the right hand side, you get your fingerprint sensor that doubles as your power button, your volume up and down, and the entirety of the sides of the phone is made out of plastic, which is to be expected to achieve such a low price. Now, on the bottom of the phone, you get your USB-C that is only capable of charging at 18 watts. You have your bottom facing speaker, a microphone, and you still retain a headphone jack, which is interesting and kind of nice that you have the option of headphone jack in a cheaper device than a more expensive phone. Now, this phone is rated for IP52, which is your basic protection, and it's a water repellent rating. And that's kind of a word that I'm going to be using more and more to describe this phone. It gives you all the basics, but not too much more than that, right? So a basic design that is actually one of this phone's best features. So again, very reminiscent to the Moto G, Moto G Power, Moto G Stylus, and even something like the Moto Razr from the previous generation. And the material on it is decent. Not the best, not the greatest, but overall, a thumbs up for the design. It's a definite improvement from the previous generation. Now, moving on to the display is very disappointing. So you only get a 720p panel. So it's a 6.7-inch 720p panel that gets bright, so I have to give it that. However, it really is just a low quality panel. Even if the resolution was 1080p, the quality itself is not all that, just because when you tilt the phone to the sides, it does bleed. However, what I found interesting is that this phone does provide you with 120 Hz high refresh rate, which is very interesting. Me personally, I would sacrifice the high refresh rate and actually get a proper 1080p display. If what we're looking to achieve is just a basic overall device, the full HD display would cover that more than the 120 Hz refresh rate would. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice that it does have a 120 Hz refresh rate, but I feel like the compromise here should have been it's just the same mistake as the Moto G, right? With the Moto G, you get a 720p display, high refresh rate. With this, very similar. 720p display, high refresh rate. I would flip the script. Full HD display, 60 Hz, basic, thumbs up, move on. And unfortunately, it just doesn't give us that, right? So from an experience, listen, if all you're looking for is just your basic tasks, it's fine, right? Don't expect to enjoy the experience of using the display, but for the most part, it's gonna get the job done. Again, just your basic display. But I feel like in 2025, moving on to 2026, we should have at least ditched the 720p panels on all smartphones, regardless of the price. But it sticks with us. You get to keep it for one more year. And yeah, so that's the story behind the display. Let's move on. So the 2026 also gives us sort of a basic camera system. So you get a main sensor of a 32 megapixel as well as a macro sensor, and the front-facing camera is only 8 megapixels. So listen, overall, from a camera perspective, this phone will get you the basic okay shot. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, the camera interface itself actually is kind of decent. So it opens quickly, takes pictures very quickly, and processes the images fairly quick as well. And overall, switching between modes, your photo, your video mode is kind of decent. Now, the video, it does max out at 1080p, and it doesn't have any optical or even electronic image stabilization. So the images may not come out as sharp or as stable as you would see in other phones that does support OIS and electronic image stabilization. So really quickly, let's cover on image quality and video quality. Again, basic. So the pictures that come out are okay at best. They're fine. They're going to get the job done for your just basic tasks. Nothing more, nothing less. they're not the greatest quality. I mean, you can see that there's a lot of noise, not too sharp, and not really balanced picture. Similar quality with video.
Hey, what's
Take
up,
a look.
guys? Tech Time here, and this is a quick video test of the 2026 Moto G Play. Now, this phone does not have optical image stabilization, so the image is going to look shaky regardless of what you do. Even if you try to keep it as steady as possible like I'm trying, it's still going to be shaky just because of the lack of optical image stabilization. And this phone does max out at 1080p, so no 4K video or anything crazy like that, but for a phone at this price point, you don't expect it to. Alright.
Another category where this phone brings you the basics is in the performance. So this phone brings in 5G connectivity, which was missing in the previous generation, so that's finally happening here. You also get 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabyte of storage, your MediaTek Dimensity 6300 for your processor, and also the best feature about it is the battery life, which is a 5200 milliamp hour battery. And overall though, the battery life was pretty good, but from performance, this phone was glitchy. So it's slow and does crash from time to time. Now, for your basic tasks, like your daily just browsing the web, going through social media, making phone calls, sending text messages, it's fine. It's gonna get you through. However, when you start, giving this phone more demanding workflows like video editing, high frames, gaming, that's when you're gonna kind of see that this phone is gonna have its limits. It's not that good. So your synthetic benchmarks give you 796 for a single core, 2062 for your multi-core, which is again your basic low-end score. But for an overall device, when it came to lighter titles in gaming, it's gonna work. And it does glitch a little bit and it does crash from time to time, but it hasn't been nothing too crazy, so it's gonna get the job done from that regard. And the battery life is something that again I have to give a thumbs up to. Now this phone does have what's called RAM boost, which will provide you a higher RAM when needed. The problem with that idea is because your storage capacity is only maxed out at 64 gigs and 24% of that storage capacity goes to the operating system and the phone's apps that come pre-installed. It's just not going to do you too well. So for the longevity, because of the low storage, I have doubts about this device. But it receives an upgrade from the 32 gigabyte of storage that this phone used to start with. So there's that. Now my overall conclusion, like I said, I wanted to be a hater, and this phone is not for me. It probably is not for a lot of people that are watching this video, but for someone that's looking for like a phone that's $170 within a budget, this might be a phone for you. If you're looking for something that's going to be decent and good for your day-to-day tasks like browsing the web, streaming from time to time, social media, taking casual photos, and you just want a phone that works and you're not looking for flagship speed, flagship camera, then this might be for you. So with that being said, let me know how you feel about this in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next one.